Welcome to Property Nomads and welcome back to Adrian Benjamin. If you haven't listened to the first episode that Adrian and I recorded, it's on the podcast feed. It's a few episodes ago, and that is about 4 pillars of protection. We were talking about, for example, wills, life insurance, and how to protect yourselves and your family in the short, medium, and long term. So I would recommend go back and listen to that. It's very this is more property specific in this episode, whereas the other episode is, I'd say, a lot more generic, so it applies to a wider range of people. Adrian, welcome back to Property Nomads.
Thank you for inviting me back.
And thoroughly enjoyed the last conversation that we had. There was a lot of insight there, and we spoke off air a while ago about property protection strategies, and I mean, we can go into all sorts of places with this. From your experience with your corporate background and then with property sourcing and the things that you've done, give us an idea. What are we going to be looking at when we're talking about property protection? How are we attacking this episode today?
Yeah, so more and more people are having limited companies to have a property business because of, I think you alluded to it on the last episode, being more tax efficient. Instead of having properties in your own name, you set up a limited company, you do it that way. So there's some great products out there where you can still have financial protection, but put it through the limited company. So with life insurance, if you're a limited company director, you can put that through the business as a company expense. And it's an allowable business expense. So it could potentially lower your corporation tax bill. So look at it, if you're a normal employee, sometimes you'll get a death in service benefit. So you might have a multiple of your salary for X amount. It's the same thing, basically. And the great thing about that is the company's paying for it. So if you're a property investor and you look at your tenant's rent is paying for your life insurance policy, if the worst was to happen, your tenants are paying for a policy that will cover the whole portfolio. So it's kind of a no-brainer. If you have a limited company. So I think that's a fantastic product. And the same elements apply from before about the planning, like that money can go, back into the business, or it can be with the family, basically. Executive income protection can go for the limited company as well. So if you can't work for any medical reason, so bad back, stress, depression, anxiety, hit by a bus, got to give the worst scenario, you get by a bus and you can never work again, then that's an income. So for example, if you are a limited company director, you get to earn 80% of what you would have got paid normally. So if we said someone's on £50,000 a year, we times that by 80%, they get 40,000. So if let's say you've got 30 years left of work left in you, right? Let's say you're 37 years old. So £40,000 a year times by 37 is nearly 1.5 million. That's what that income protection policy is actually worth. So you're getting that income every month.
Just on that, just thinking outside the box here. Is that what a director would get paid gross net, or is that from the rental income? Because sometimes directors will take minimal PAYE and then top that with. So how are we looking at that?
Yeah, that would be separate. That would be coming through the business. So same way that they take salary and dividend, you get it's expensed when you're paying it monthly. But then if you need to claim it, if you are sick, then you pay tax as normal.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's a great one. Also, property events. There's a lot of JVing going on, so which is joint venture. So let's say me and Robert wanted to do business with each other. Fantastic. Let's say I died, right? My shares go to my spouse on death, and she can come in and make business decisions. Robert, would you want my missus making business decisions?
I'm going to say I've never personally met your missus, so I'm not going to comment on that and be diplomatic.
Right. So the answer to that is no. And that's what happens with limited company directors. So there's a product called shareholder protection, whereby if that was to happen, you also need a cross option agreement drawn up by a solicitor or legal specialist, which will say, similar to property, Robert has the option to buy the shares off my spouse and retain 100% ownership of the business.
Hmm.
That is a product that is massively needed in the property space that we spoke about beforehand, where people do JVs, which is great. You never think of the downside, and that is preventing a lot of headache. So shareholder protection, if you've got 2 or more limited company directors, is huge. Key person. So let's say you've got an IT firm, Robert, for example, and you've got a great IT developer who's developing this property app. If that person's off sick or passes away, that's a massive impact on your business, because you can't replace them because everything's in their head. And if you're trying to recruit them, that's going to take time and money. So with a key person policy on that person, you could say if that person's off sick or passes away, that money goes into the business. So let's say that person's worth 100 grand to the business. That money goes into the business, and then you can help to recruit someone else to come in and take that person's place. That is another product which is, I think, more suited to more developed businesses that have been around for a number of years. But that product's huge as well, and again goes for the business. If you have a buy-to-let portfolio, all those mortgages, if someone passes away, what happens to the debt then? No one ever thinks about that. So you can get the mortgages covered through the business as well.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot to attack here. So I love the point that you made about joint ventures, because as you mentioned in the previous episode that we've done and off air, that whenever you go around to property networking events or property training, like I've done as well, then you get a lot of, JV fine, JV this, JV that, but actually, and sometimes it works out absolutely fine, but it's always a horror stories, isn't it? But there's always times where it's people just haven't been told about something, or they haven't thought of it themselves. And I think that's the point we're trying to make here, that actually a couple of things, to be honest, that you've just mentioned there, I haven't actually thought about. I didn't know they existed. That shareholder protection, that sort of swap. I didn't actually know that existed. So that's new to me. So I'm sure people are going to be taking a lot from
There's
this.
always a shareholders agreement from like the solicitors bit,
Correct.
but they don't say you need insurance to cover. That's the missing bit. So that's an education piece as well.
Yeah.
It's the same how relevant life and executive income protection is kind of for accountants, but if they're not around specialist insurance brokers like myself, they're going to be aware of it as well. So that's why, again, all the products that me and Robert have spoken about today, they're going to be in my YouTube channel. They're on my Instagram account, where if you want to go back and double check on it, you can do that online.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say on that, we'll mention that at the end. All the links and whatnot are going to be in the show notes as well. And again, I would urge people to go back and listen to the other episode that we've recorded about 4 pillars of protection as well. So in terms of property, so we've got these shareholder bits and pieces here. Caveat emptor when you're doing your joint ventures. What do you find that, from your experience, again with your corporate background, what do you find that property people just aren't thinking about, that they need to think about? Is there anything you haven't mentioned that needs mentioning?
I think that the end part of, what happens to the business when you're not here? So the life insurance bit, the will bit, the business products we spoke about just now with shareholder protection for JVs, key person cover, if you get sick, things like that. I think what I've learned with property people is it's just cash flow and appreciation. That's all they're bothered about. And they think, oh, well, I'm dead, someone else will sort it out. Well, no, because they can lose it all. And it's like you've put, 25% down for the deposit for the property, the buy-to-let, you're not getting that money back. So if you've invested all this time, energy, and effort and money, protect it properly. There's family businesses that have been going for hundreds and hundreds of years. They have to have a plan in place. And if you are, whatever you are aligning with your family doing it, just do it correctly, and plan it. Because like we said before with lenders, they've already analyzed you when you apply for a mortgage. They check your credit rating. Do you pay things on time? Are you reckless? If you have a credit card, how much of the credit card are you actually using? Are you maxing it out every month? Is that a good thing? Are you on the voters roll? They just want to see, are you staying in a certain area? Do you move around a lot? Do you have a fixed location? Like, that's all risk. So we're happy to take out hundreds of thousands in mortgage debt, but we're not thinking about making sure we can pay that back. And that's why I feel I'm here to spread more awareness on.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think as what's important, and we touched on this in the previous episode as well, that if you've got a property business, okay, and there's two of you, like me and Aaron, best mates, known each other for a very long time, and that's all great. I know that because and I'm saying this, and I mean this in the politest possible way at the time of recording, when my wife is when my wife is Mexican and English is fine, etc., etc. I know that from a passing the business on point of view, actually, it's more beneficial for Aaron if something were to happen to me. It's more beneficial that actually my shares get passed to my brother because my brother's got a commercial property background.
Right.
He's got an interest in it, and it sets him up moving forward. Now, when kids are born, or whenever that happens, then the situation changes again. But from a practical point of view, I'm thinking, right, okay, pass it on to my brother because he's got an interest in it. He's also UK based, which I imagine might make things easier. I don't know. So it's just little things like that, thinking, okay, if something happens to me tomorrow, this is in place, that goes to this person, that then shouldn't disrupt the business as such, because Aaron and my brother get on quite well. So they've got a working relationship as well. And then, whatever happens after that happens. Maybe that's just my way of thinking, but I think it comes back to what you've said before multiple times. It's about thinking, but also about being pragmatic and not just taking things for granted.
Yeah, and also things might change, but at least you've had the conversation because, like I said, I've been in property for how many years now? Like, oh, I'm not here, they'll sort it out. No, they won't. And the lender's going to take it back. And people just think, because again, we're not told these things. So it's not anyone's, I guess, fault. But you really need to think about it because all these, multi-million, billion-pound businesses, they're planning everything, right? When we get anything released to general public, that's been made years in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think someone said that like the iPhone, they have like 10 versions ahead already, but they're planning, like, does that make sense? But I feel some of us fall into business or start a business because it sounded like a good idea, and then you get stuck. Well, I'm saying, look, have the end in mind. So, for example, and I've got some friends in America where they'll say they'll set up a business and we're going to sell it in 5 years, 10 years, we're going to go public. That's the plan, cool. And then we're going to do something else. Where a lot of people are, I'm going to do this property, that property. There's no plan, there's no contingency. I'm working all these hours for my kids because I hear it every day in my job. I was like, does your kid even like property? They financially literate? Do you trust them with money? And it's like, oh no. I was like, if you're not doing it now when he's 12, if you get hit by a bus, like, that's not good. Whereas some people, it's completely different where they're building businesses and they know full well their kids are going to get it. That's how they think in different cultures. And even if the kids aren't business minded, well, so-and-so uncle or whatever is going to manage it for them, right? You want that property business because we all love property, right? Because it's great, right? Majority of the most wealthiest people in the world have property. That's why, we're in it to learn.
Yep.
But how are they having properties that are lasting generations and other people aren't? Because if you're not aware of it, you can lose everything in like one generation. If you haven't got the correct things in place, there might be a tax bill. Okay, is a life insurance policy, so whatever the bill is, we can still pay that. Do we have enough money so the lender's happy? Whether we pay it all off or not, or remortgage, like it doesn't matter. Like, you're always going to need capital in any business, and this is what these products are doing. And if you put it through the limited company, it's going to be a lot more tax efficient for you.
Yeah, I'm sure the words tax efficiency will perk people's ears up 100% the minute you say that, because again we're approaching this from a limited company point of view. So what I will ask you is, if just for argument's sake, I'm a sole trader and I've got 5 properties in my personal name, so I've owned them for 20 years or whatever it is. do the same strategies still apply? As in, could I possibly come to you and say, yeah, Adrian, I want some life insurance, or can that still apply if you're a sole trader? Does that make a difference at all?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, the same products still apply. It's just, you can't put it through the business like a limit company, but you can still have it as a sole trader, the life insurance policy written into trust. That's available for everyone, where, your estate's not paying 40% inheritance tax. So no matter how you're operating for work, there's going to be a product for you.
Yeah, and it all comes down to speaking with the right people, having the right people on your power team. And I would say, after all of that, as you said it as well, you've got to start with the end in mind. So if you're just thinking of getting started in property, as I know a few people are, what's the end result? Is it passed down generational? Is it to, you want to live off the rent and ride off into the sunset and whatever it is you want to do? There's no right or wrong with whatever your answer is, but start with the end in mind will then help you get the right policies and the right people in place in order to protect yourself, family moving forward.
Exactly. Everyone is going to be completely different as well. Another thing I get is, John down the pub got his for £2.50 or whatever. Everyone's insurance is completely unique to themselves. So if you had an identical twin, your policies could be completely different. Your twin brother might smoke, he might drink, he might have other health conditions. So it's never going to be a like for like.
And that makes a good point. And again, from your experience, and this is a novice question, but I'm asking this on purpose. What sort of things will affect the life insurance policy? You mentioned smoking, drinking. What other things? What things do you see that people get stumped by that they're not expecting that we can bring to the table now to make people aware?
Yeah. No, that is a good question. So smoking, some people would think even though they smoke, it won't impact it. It will. Height and weight, so your BMI, your medical history. Do you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, any medical condition? Your job as well. So, for example, if you're working at let's say an oil rig, that's dangerous, right? You got a higher chance of dying than someone in an office. So your line of work is important as well. But I'd say mainly from a medical perspective, that's probably the main thing. How is your health? I think they're the things that can change the policy. And if you can even get covered, I've got some clients coming to me and I'd love to help them, but for whatever medical reason, the insurance provider is going to say, no, they're too much of a risk. So it's a bit cliche. The sooner you get it done, the cheaper it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And not that I'm going to advocate that people, how should I put it, bend the truth on these things, but I'm going to guess from your point of view, because people have the stigma about, well, insurance never pays out and, this happens, that happens. I'm going to guess that you need to be just truthful about it. So, for example, I wouldn't class myself as a smoker. Would I have the odd cigarette every now and then? Yes. So therefore, I will be a smoker, I would imagine.
Yes, correct. Yes, exactly. So I'm glad you said that because you've disclosed it. Because again, if something happens and they, examine your body and they're like, oh, well, we could tell there was smoke in there. You don't want that because they're not going to pay out because you've not been truthful. But you can still smoke and get covered for life insurance. Every provider's attitude to it is completely different. But you're right, you have to disclose it, or you don't drink alcohol and you drink 50 units a week and your liver fails. Hey, they're not going to. We're joking around, but please tell the truth. It's basically it.
No, I completely agree with this. It's people might look at the especially if you're putting it through a business as well, because then, as you said about tax efficiency and business covers the cost of it, etc., etc., etc. Then, in fact, there's no reason not to try and bend the truth to save like £5. It's going to come off your tax bill anyway, so it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. Adrian, before we wrap up, sort of send people in your direction of how people get hold of you and speak to you, etc. Two questions. Is it? I'll do them separately rather than make it one big question. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned about property and property protection that people need to know that you're able to tell them?
I think we've kind of covered all it from the protection and insurance, and that's pretty much it. If people, forget, obviously I've got my YouTube channel which goes through all the different products. Obviously your podcast is going to be in my link tree as well, so if they want to go back and listen to that, and if they're not too sure, just click my Calendly link for an appointment, and then we can go through it, because like we said before, everyone's situation is completely different. So yeah, just have a consultation call, really.
Fantastic. And then my other question was sort of overlaps what I've just said. Is there any frequently asked questions? What's the most common question you'll get when it comes down to insurance policies and setting this sort of stuff up?
I think you kind of covered them, like, does it pay out? How much is it going to cost? They're the kind of usual ones. But actually, like I've said before, it's actually more affordable than people think. It's just there's a stigma in our head that we just think, it's going to be, loads. I've had people where they've got everything and like, oh my God, is that it? And I'm like, yeah, like your car lease is £500 a month. Hopefully everything's not going to be £500 a month. That's a depreciating asset. If you had it in insurance, it's protecting everything you've ever worked for. So I always say to clients, look at the value, not the price. If you look at it that way, then it's going to be better for you.
Yeah, I love that phrase because going off topic, I say the same to people when talking about gold and silver, like the actual physical stuff. Is don't look at the price, look at the value with everything that's going on. But that's a different podcast for a different time. I won't get into that right now. Adrian, thank you very much. I would urge people to go back and listen to the first episode that we've done that you've taken time out of your day to record. So thank you for doing the previous episode as well. Really appreciate that. We will put all the links, Linktree, YouTube, Instagram, all of that will be in the show notes. And yes, as and when things change or if something else pops up, I'd be delighted to have you back on the show, because I think this information is incredibly useful for everyone listening in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully the episodes that we've done have been added a lot of value and got you thinking, because this is the sort of stuff we all need to take action on.
Thank you for having me on the show, Robert.